that sort of adds up to me like a dictatorship in the making. That we are now in it. We are in it now.
I really think this is so dangerous and so reprehensible rhetoric to say we are already in a fascist dictatorship. Guys, up first in our Bread versus the Media segment, we got to take on more media bias, and this time for mainstream media and kind of establishment liberal media. And there's really, yesterday we talked about NPR, and they might be the worst, actually. And thankfully, they were defunded of our taxpayer dollars. But then there's The View over on ABC News. And The View is diabolical for several reasons. But one is that it's not even just that they're liberal or very progressive leaning, it's that they're not very sharp and they don't have a very thorough command of the facts and of how politics truly works. And then they rile people up and get people scared and alarmed. And for some reason, millions of people tune into this program. The hosts are paid millions of dollars and it's aired on a major news network. So I find it to be a shining example of everything that's wrong with mainstream media. And one of the hosts, Joy Behar, just reminded us of that reality once again, because she went on this truly bizarre rant about the ICE shooting, which we've talked about on the show, of Renee Good in Minnesota. And it's strange because that's actually an issue where the majority of the country, if you look at some of the polling is coming out, does not side with the ICE officer and doesn't think the shooting was justified. And so it's an issue, same with some of the other ICE overreach that's happening, where you can totally critique the Trump administration and push back in a sane way and have a good faith debate. Then there's what Joy did. And there's the good faith debate and pushback and Joy Behar's rant. It's not a Venn diagram. It's just two circles. Without further ado, let's just watch this clip.
Worry about that Trump is looking for this kind of pandemonium to go on, like you just described, so that he could declare martial law or something, and also cancel the midterms.
Well, under martial law, you won't have elections.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. But listen,
because he's worried. He even said, if the Democrats take Congress next time, I will be impeached, which means that he could be convicted and sent to jail. He does not want that to happen.
So here's what I'm going to suggest again. Know your rights, but also check out and find out what their rights are. Let us be very clear. Not all ICE agents are out of control. Not all of them. Some of them actually do know what they're doing, and they're having a hard time because they don't recognize the agency they've worked for years. So there's a lot going on.
Okay, so we don't need to we could just start with a couple things here. The fact that Joy Behar spins this narrative that the demonstrations and protests and conflict with ICE officers getting out of control, which I agree is a real problem, and I worry more people will be hurt, but it's like, oh, well, maybe that's why we should stop encouraging people to obstruct or to... Peaceful protest is great. Make your voice heard. If you don't support what ICE is doing, call your congressman, write letters, protest peacefully in public. Don't block traffic. Don't try to get in between the ICE officers and suspects. Don't do any of the stuff that could lead to dangerous confrontations. If you care about people, both the bystanders and everyone involved, you should not be supporting that. But to say that Trump is going to use that as a pretext to declare martial law or try to cancel elections, there is no evidence for that. I mean, never say never, I guess, but to make those kinds of claims without evidence is fear-mongering. It is riling people up when there's no actual basis to worry about that happening, at least certainly not yet. And on some level, some of the things she's saying don't even make sense factually. They're not how the system works. And you would think that professional political commentators on a news network would know that. I'm going to go through a couple of those ways. First, though, guys, do make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you aren't yet, hit the like button. And please do consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube to support my work. You'll unlock early access to full-length ad-free episodes every day, Monday through Friday, and it's the best way to help me stay independent so I can call out BS on the left and the right and not have to pander to a partisan YouTube algorithm. Hit the join button or check out the link in the description or pinned comment to support my content now. Anyway, back to Joy here, and a couple things she said. That he's going to cancel the midterm elections. I don't think that's even really possible. First of all, as Alyssa Farah Griffin on the panel pointed out, States administer the elections. So she's not even describing a thing that could feasibly happen, I don't think. Now, listen, he's done some crazy shit related to elections before. We don't need to relitigate 2020 and the temper tantrum and fit he threw after losing that election. But the truth is that the 2026 midterms are going to happen, will happen, and until there's actual reason to believe they won't, telling millions of impressionable people that is dangerous and is going to rile them up and push them towards maybe drastic action or getting involved in some dangerous kind of resistance. And he's like, that's not safe. That's not a responsible use of your platform. And in the same way, it's funny to me that she doesn't even know how this stuff works, because she says, well, he doesn't want to lose the House and get impeached and then convicted and go to jail. That's not even a thing. Like, so if he loses the House, and if Republicans lose the House in 2026, and the Democratic House of Representatives control the House of Representatives, then they will impeach Trump. It will go to a trial in the Senate, and then if he is convicted of that, if he's convicted of the offense, he will be removed from office. But I believe that would require 60 votes in the Senate, and it's unlikely that Democrats will have those votes. So they'd either need some Republicans to vote to convict, which would suggest to me he's actually done something impeach-worthy, or they would need a huge majority in the Senate. I don't think they're going to get. But here's the important part. Even if the Senate convicted him of the impeachment, he would be removed from office, but he wouldn't be sent to jail. Impeachment is a constitutional remedy. It's not a criminal process. It has nothing to do with a criminal process. And maybe you would have some states and localities that bring charges against him, but at least for federal stuff, J.D. Vance would become president and could just pardon Trump. So I'm not even sure she understands the things she is saying. But I guess that kind of makes it par for the course for The View. I want to play you another clip of Joy. This one's from a few days ago. She's really, really ratcheting up the rhetoric. Listen to this.
That sort of adds up to me like a dictatorship in the making. That we are now in it. We are in it now. And American people, I think, have to wake up to this a little bit more than we are. We try very hard to give you what we know, but people have to start reading and watching and paying attention a little bit more than we have, because we can lose it.
I'm sorry, but I really think this is so dangerous and so reprehensible rhetoric to say we are already in a fascist dictatorship. There are lots of things the Trump administration has done that have gone overboard. There's ways in which they've acted lawlessly. We can have so many conversations, but that rhetoric is dialed up to a 15 out of 10 and is just objectively not true. If it was actually a fascist dictatorship, you wouldn't be on daytime television calling it a fascist dictatorship every day with no ramifications or consequences. If you want to see an actual authoritarian dictatorship, look at what's happening to people who protest in Iran right now. Newsflash, they're not going back on air the next day to their multi-million cable news pad studio. So the other thing is that it's not a fascist dictatorship when you have elected leaders who can be voted out of office in free and fair elections, and you have a system of laws and courts where you can challenge the different things that are happening. And so far, at least, that system is holding. None of this is to say there's not legitimate ways in which the Trump administration is trying to break the system, push the boundaries, go overboard. All of that I can acknowledge. But when you start telling people we're in a fascist dictatorship, that is dangerous rhetoric. Because, that's when people go to violent revolution. And that's not true. There still are peaceful remedies. So unless you want more political violence, don't say that. Don't make people think that. It's a very dangerous thing to suggest, because if you're actually in a dictatorship, the only solution isn't elections, isn't protesting. Now, that will work in this case because we're not in a fascist dictatorship. But when you're telling people that, you're telling them the only answer then is violent revolution. And so unless you are actively trying to encourage more assassination attempts or more violent rioting where people will be hurt, you can't do this. It's not responsible. But I guess they don't care. They just don't care. This rhetoric from Joy Behar in particular is genuinely, anyone that listens to it could find themselves in danger and harm's way. I want to play you another clip where the other people on the panel have to be the voice of the reason. The other delusional women of The View have to be the voice of reason with Joy Behar. That's how far gone she is, because for a minute she seems to suggest that people should actively interfere in ICE arrests, creating the exact kind of dangerous situation that led to Renee Good's death in Minnesota. Listen to this.
What happens if one of these ICE agents harms a protester? You know, they're just rough with them,
Which
whatever.
they've already done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are the others who are protesting allowed to then help him?
No.
No.
Unfortunately,
so who would help that person
they could
and
come to
prevent
medical
harm?
aid
You can come to medical aid afterward, but you don't want to interfere with a detained.
This is almost comical to me. Now, in a serious sense, it's like sick. It's genuinely disturbing. But when Sunny Hostin has to be the voice of reason and tell Joy Behar, no, don't tell people to interfere in an active law enforcement arrest. How is that even a question? How do you not understand? Even if you don't believe in ICE, you don't believe in deporting illegal aliens, any of that, you should have the common sense to know that interfering with police actively while they're arresting someone is a terrible idea, is at best case going to catch you an obstruction charge, and at worst case going to lead to a confrontation where you could get seriously hurt or killed. We just saw that something similar happened with Renee Good in Minnesota, and they're horrified by it, as am I. I think her loss of life is tragic. I think it's terrible. I think she should still be alive. I think the self-defense question will ultimately have to be litigated in court and needs a thorough, objective investigation. But it is dangerous that this woman is out here popping off, yapping like this. Like, this is not about celebrity gossip. If they want to be airheads just popping off about things that don't matter, okay, whatever. Will I tune into it? Do I find it riveting? No. But when you have a daytime news show on a news network that millions of people tune into, and you are so ill-informed and then just casually floating dangerous suggestions, that's a problem. That's a serious misuse of your platform and a total failure of the responsibility you have as a broadcaster to your audience. But other than that, they're doing amazing. I don't know, guys. What do you think of all this, especially Joy Behar this time around over at The View? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button and do consider becoming a channel member to support my work.